Hi guys, how are you? The party was nice, right? My head is still reeling actually, so I hope I'm going to make a good job. So we just saw some numbers here of who were the major spikes yesterday of online conversation. And actually, when you think about that, it's like the Nielsen ratings of our television. And this is what we're going to talk about now, is about television. Everybody thinks that television might be dying. You know, every year that's the end of television. People do not watch television anymore. People just go online, they watch YouTube. There's one that I think there's more than 1 billion uniques on YouTube every single month. 1 billion people are watching a piece of content on YouTube. So of course, then people say television is dead. But you really think that television is dead? I don't think so. Who actually watches television? Every single one of you do. We'll have like now a panel and a discussion with very interesting people for established companies. You'll realize which ones I'm talking about, because these guys actually also want a piece of the action. These guys are not going to be disrupted like this. So I'm calling on stage first Adrian Monck, Managing Director and Head of Communication Media for the World Economic Forum, will be moderated the panel. And Bruno Patino, Senior Vice President of Programming, Network TV and Digital Strategy for France Télévisions. See, I said it in French, France Television, or France Télévisions. And Estenson, Senior Vice President and General Manager for CNN. Please welcome. Thank you. Also got.
Morning.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Adrian?
Good. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bruno.
Hey,
Casey.
Thank you.
Hello.
So congratulations to all of you for making it in at this terribly early hour. My name is Adrian Monck. I'm head of comms at the World Economic Forum. In case you're wondering what I know about the future of television, I helped give it a future by leaving my job as a television news executive 5 years ago. So I'm joined by two folks who are actually charged with looking after the future of television. Casey Estenson, head of CNN Digital and recovering Disney executive, as it says on his Twitter bio, and Bruno Patino, Director of Television and Digital at France Télévisions, also a guy who started the website for Le Monde, and he was telling me that on a good day when they started, 30 uniques was considered something of an achievement. So come a long way in terms of adoption. We're going to hear in a moment from Casey, who's got a little presentation, but I mean, these guys, I suppose, represent the incumbents. You know, they are the, I don't want to use the word dinosaurs because they're both far too athletic to be dinosaurs, but maybe the velociraptors of the industry. So Bruno, I mean, what, as Director of as Head of Television Digital, what keeps you up at night worrying about the future of television?
Well, you know, in a way, we have always mixed feeling. At nights, you can have sweet dreams because we're entering the video age. Video is everywhere, and not only video, but also programs are everywhere. People want to consume programs, whether it's series, video news, or documentaries. So in a way, we could say we enter in a golden age of what we can do. But if I look at France Télévisions, my feeling, what keeps me awake at night is how do I turn a vertical organization, how do I adapt this organization, this vertical organization, into a horizontal world? That is, how do I process to make France Télévisions living with the age of context, living with the audience, living with the algorithm, and living with the interface? Those are the things that keep me awake at night. So what we are trying to do basically is that in order to live with the age of context, we of course are embracing the Atawad logic and being present in any platform. We are also embracing the second screen policy in order to have a lot of our programming having second screen options, or having second screen stories, or having second screen services presented to the audience. But Atawad, or the age of context, is not the only challenge we had. We have to, of course, embrace the age of the audience being present, not only into the conversational era, entering the conversation with what we call the social TV, whatever it is, with Twitter, Facebook, entering the sharing of TV programs, but also welcoming an audience that could create its own program, opening our gates into what the audience could do, could create for us. And this is, of course, when you're speaking about a dinosaur or whatever you can call it, I don't call it that, but an institutionalized television, it's a long way to go. Then After, we have also to know how to live with the interface. I absolutely do not believe that TV broadcasters can create interfaces that can compete with all those kind of interfaces we are seeing developing into the digital world. But we have to be adapted, to adapt ourselves to all those interfaces. So the API policy that we have to develop is, of course, one of our main challenges too. And just to conclude, because you told me 2 minutes, so I'm trying to keep on with the time. Just to conclude, we have also to live with the algorithm. And to live with the algorithm is to review completely your data policy. So you not only have to create programs, not only you do have to publish programs, but you have to organize the data all around the programs in order to be able to be present with the algorithm. So in a short way, all those things means opening our gates, trying to understand things we didn't understand before. We didn't know how to do that, in order to put more power and more power to our programs. Because I'm very confident into the future of what we can publish, our programs. Our main challenge is to enter this complex world.
I was going to say, one of the things I'd like to ask you, just after we've heard from KC, is about how you persuade program makers and content producers to actually make that engagement. Because in the old world, they're not very used to the audience talking back to them and from hearing from folks. KC, I'm afraid to say I'm a Business Insider reader occasionally, and a couple of weeks ago they ran a fantastic Business Insider headline that said, television is dead, but no one told advertisers. And it had a great statistic in it about people unplugging and kind of taking their connection away from cable. Yeah. I mean, CNN, cable news network, you're the head of digital, CNN.com.
Right.
How difficult, what's the challenge of persuading folks to actually consume your content off the traditional cable television platform?
Yeah, I think the rumors of the death of television are highly overrated. But in order to stay competitive and really stay afloat, every television operator must have a massive digital operation behind them. And it's a decision that CNN made back in 1996, was to create a website, the first US American news television network to create a website. You know, CNN was the first 24-hour news network on television, and so it was disruptive to begin with. So, you know, what you see on the slide here is that we made a decision to be on every platform and to be ubiquitous as quickly as we could, as early as we could. It's 20 platforms now. It's 9 editions, 6 different languages globally. I think it is probably the largest, between us and the BBC, the largest sort of global digital news operation on the planet. There's pretty much not a device or platform that we're not on. That has incredibly stressed the organization at the same time. Managing a news network not only for broadcast but across all of these platforms from a publishing perspective is incredibly complex, and staying up and afloat with that. However, the results have been pretty impressive. I mean, these are some US numbers. To give you an idea of where we are for CNN, you know, there's 100 million plus homes passed for television, 41 million uniques on the desktop web. Globally, that number is over 60 million uniques for CNN. And then when you look at the explosion of mobile, social, smartphones, game consoles, tablets, connected TVs, and you start to look at the growth rates against these things, what you're seeing is desktop web starting to flatten out in its consumption of news product. For us, at least, these are CNN numbers. But if you look at between social media and mobile, the consumption is all double-digit growth. We're 30% up year over year on mobile web. We now are 75% up year over year in social media, almost 100% when you start to look at smartphones and tablets. And so what's happening is, as the consumption shifts, we have to be there for the consumer. In the US now, 75% of all devices that are being shipped to view television are able to be connected to the internet. That will open up a whole new category of products and opportunities. Louis and I were joking backstage. He said, I'll watch your presentation and look for my next startup. And this is it. Interactive television and the connection of the internet into the TV will create a whole new classification of products. So the internet and mobile world is all user intent driven. The broadcast market is not that. The broadcast market is, I set up a television network, I put out all of this news, and I hope somebody will watch what I have on the screen at this moment. And I hope they'll stay with me until the next program. And we all know the internet and mobile doesn't work like that. So when that mode of interaction, of on demand, what I want to watch, when I want to watch it, how long, what format, what device, comes to television, it will open up a whole new class. What's happened to us in social now, when you look at all the other competitors, CNN is far and away the largest social media news brand in the world. It's 14.5 million Twitter followers just for @CNN Break. It's over 35 million across CNN's accounts. Two of the biggest Twitter accounts, of the top 10 Twitter accounts in the world, are CNN's. So we have CNN Break and @CNN are both in the top 10 for all Twitter accounts this last year. And then when you look at the Facebook followers, so it's 51 million social media followers combined between Facebook and Twitter. And that's happening because we are very actively reaching out and pushing a conversation of news and breaking news and feedback with our audience across these platforms, and publishing specifically for the Twitter audience or for the Facebook audience, so selecting articles inside of our corpus and publishing into those environments. And then this is also interesting. I just want to kind of give you guys an idea of consumption. So if you look at traditional newspaper consumption, in the morning it spikes and then it trails off, and you get another little hit toward the evening as commuters are going home. And when you look at what's happening with CNN across our platforms, so CNN television starts low in the morning, these are US numbers, and they peak in the evening and prime time. But when you start to lay in digital, you see an interesting thing. So CNN.com has its primetime peak around lunchtime. So that news consumer who's sitting at their desk in their office in the middle of the day is going to CNN.com. What we're seeing now with mobile web is it stays pretty consistent through the day, and mobile web is starting to pick up in the evening. So the evening commute hours, mobile web is picking up. And then when you look at what's happening with the iPhone app, we're seeing a midday usage peak in the iPhone app. That's the green line there. That's happening kind of similar to desktop web. But the tablet one is the most interesting to me. On our iPad app, we're seeing peak consumption in the evenings. So we kind of look at this as the camel hump of consumption for CNN Digital, which is we have in the morning a lot more people going to the web, and that's spiking up and around noon, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then a trailing off into the late afternoon, and then another consumption burst on tablet happening in the evenings. And so that double hump is really good for consistent engagement. And what it's doing is it's starting to inform the way that we actually publish our news by platform. So in the morning, the computers are driving action. We're really looking at pushing our news out aggressively on the web and on mobile in the mornings. And in the evenings, it's much more a video experience and much more long form. And so that's starting to inform the types of television programming that we put on and the types of co-viewing experiences that we enable on iPad. And then mobile and alerting is the glue. So that phone is with you all the time. And I say the first screen is the best screen for us, for CNN. It's the entry point into the brand. So I learn that a news event is happening through a breaking news alert. And if it's big enough, I'll get to my television. It's an invitation in to watch TV. And then what's happening now is we're taking, in the US, the full television network feed and putting it on the web and putting it on mobile web. So if you are a subscriber to CNN TV through Comcast or DirecTV or one of the traditional distributors, you can authenticate to your mobile device or to the web, and you can watch all of CNN TV on whatever device you're on. We live stream this without audio all the time now in the US, so people can see it, and then when they click, they get a 2-minute preview of CNN television, and then they can authenticate and watch the full network. This is only available in the US, but I think hopefully will roll out as we work out our distributor arrangements globally. But I just want to give you guys an idea of the consumption. So we put it in August of 2011. We enabled watching CNN TV on digital devices, and since then, we've had 21 million hours of consumption of the television network on mobile and web. So the numbers have gone off the charts since we've introduced that. So what I'm seeing here, and the sort of in conclusion, is that we have a connective tissue between the television network, the digital, the social, the mobile, and we're programming to all of those platforms and really trying to make it work in the right way for the right device.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bruno, I mean, listening to that, you're heading a very traditional public service broadcaster that's in the process of radically redefining itself. How does this concept of television becoming video everywhere impact your organization? You spoke in the introduction a little bit about the kind of institutional challenges. How do you change France Télévisions to make it relate to this world that Casey's just outlined?
You know, we two different things. First, to be on every screen was not as difficult as you would imagine. I mean, 3 years ago, you would have per month something like 4 or 5 million videos that were viewed outside the TV set. Now it's 65 million a month. We are on every platform, whatever you can imagine, mobile, tablet, every kind of platform you can imagine, we are present. And it's a natural way. I mean, people, if you're a public broadcasters, it's rather easy. I mean, culturally speaking, technically speaking is another question, but culturally speaking, it's rather easy to say to people, let's make our programs available on every platform you can imagine, on every screen you can imagine, at every time you can imagine. That is rather easily done, including with the producers. You can discuss with them, and you know, at the end of the day, they're really happy when they see the program everywhere. To tell you, to give you an example now, it's and I'm not speaking about just about a blockbusters program, but every program. Now, every program is in between 5%, 6% to 18% of what you can have on the broadcast audience on other screens. If you take, for example, Fais pas ci, fais pas ça, which is a serial on France 2, you have something like 15% of the audience now that is coming on another screen than on the TV set. And at another moment that on the broadcast moment. So that was rather easily done. What is more difficult, in fact, but little by little it's coming by the force of example, is to convince program people, producers, authors to put some digital, some conversation, some sharing, some real time, some contribution into the program. The way you do that is you pick up, the first year you do that, 2 years ago, you pick up 3 programs on the 200 or 300 programs you have, and you turn them into the digital thing. And the next year is 20 programs, and the next year is 50 programs. Let me give you 2 examples. Political shows, for example. The first time you say to political shows or political programs, let's put some Twitter on the screen, let's put some conversation into the screen. They say, you know, we are political journalists, we know what we're talking about, we don't need the audience to be present on the screen. If the audience wants to speak outside the main screen, let them do that. But let's not put them on the screen. And then they try it, for example, on Mots Croisés or Des Paroles et des Actes, and they realize that the people entering the conversation is really the conversation is a very first-rate conversation. You have politicians, former ministers, people that are really experts that enter that conversation, and that when it appears on the screen, then the program changes. And everybody wants to do that afterwards.
Can I ask you, you've talked about making material available. I mean, we know that broadcasting changed a lot of things in terms of how content was structured. You know, cliffhangers in programs to get you to come back next week. We know now that people are making binge series where the concept of the cliffhanger is less relevant. How are we going to see, or when are we going to see a situation on broadcasters like France Télévisions where it's going to be the digital leading and the broadcast following?
But leading or following, it's not my problem. My problem is to be adapted to both worlds. I do not think that you could analyze the things are, broadcasting will be falling and digital will be climbing. I must believe, I'm a believer into the connected TV that will mix both worlds. For events, sports events, political events, big shows, live programming will be the main thing, whether you see it on a smartphone or on the TV set. For other kind of shows, the consumption, the way you interact with it, the way you see it, you watch it, will be through recommendations, algorithm, or on demand, which are different things. And so we have to adapt for. But when you speak about stories, serial, it is true that 2 years, 3 years ago, you would have cliffhangers, or you would have serials where every episode will be like a mini story, and you would not rely on watching it next week. With marathon or binge viewing, it's a kind of different stories we are promoting, but these are long cycles. So we are thinking about it now, we are commissioning about it now. You will see on the screen 2 years, in 2 years or three years deadline, because it's the time it takes you to make stories. But these changes are coming. You can be sure of it. They are coming. And we'll be ready for marathon and binge viewing, of course.
In a minute, I want to see if I can get some questions from our early rising folks who've made it in. Congratulations again. But Casey, I mean, is there going to be a House of Cards kind of content moment coming to CNN in terms of what you provide for people?
Well, I'd like to say that CNN is in the produce business. The product is incredibly perishable, and news has to be refreshed, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. So I think the challenges that Bruno is up against in kind of a broader entertainment landscape are a little bit different than the news cycle, which is really about delivering information immediately. However, I do think that once you see an entire series be delivered in one shot, 22 episodes out in one moment, to Bruno's point, the user expectation begins to change. And that pressures everybody to start to think about programming in a different way. And so eventually you will see that, and you're starting to see it in US broadcasters. Maybe you just provide the whole season in one shot.
Is there a danger, though, that you're going to see a divergence? You talked about news being very perishable, but I mean, the top-rated show on CNN in the States is Anthony Bourdain, isn't it? And that's very much a kind of traditional television offering on a cable news network.
Right.
Now, are we going to see a situation where to keep the cable audience, one kind of content has to be produced, but that's not the same content that you're going to want to ship out on your mobile and other connected platforms?
Well, we will ship it out on the mobile and connected platforms, but I do think that if you're going to sit down for an hour of television, it better be really great TV, and it better be compelling and interesting and entertaining. And part of why the Bourdain show has done so well is that people watch it, they can watch it time shifted and place shifted, as opposed to a news analysis program which is talking about the events of the day, a comment that a foreign minister made, or Mandela's passing, or what have you. And so, I think it's both of these things. And for us, we're becoming much more platform agnostic. And it's quite possible that the web will be the place where the breaking news moments happen first. Again, when CNN was invented, 24-hour-a-day televised news was a radical notion. That somebody would actually want to sit and watch news around the clock. So the web has now become, and mobile has become, that next point of innovation and that next point of entry. I now find out about breaking news largely through my mobile device.
Can I just check in with our audience and see, don't worry, it is early, I'll let you off if I don't see a rocket of hands go up, but do we have anyone who wants to come in and pose a question? Gentleman on the front row, can we get a microphone to you? And we have another question just further down. So if we can hear from both of you, and if you can just tell us who you are and before you speak. So gentleman there, and then gentleman there.
Hi. Hi. My name is Daniel. I'm with NPTV from Moscow. And I would like to ask, how do you go about interactive TV in terms of technology and the actual TV set, not just the second screen? Because as my understanding from what you say is that you're pushing towards the internet and the second screen, but do you go about doing any technology with the actual TV set that millions and millions of people have in their homes?
Yeah, so I can address that first. In general, I think second screen experiences suck. I have not seen, I don't know how that translates into French or Russian, but
don't try.
The second screen experiences have been very lousy to date. I think it's a hacked attempt to try to bring some sort of social or community interaction to TV. And I've done a lot of this work for a long time, going back to Disney, when we would do viewing rooms and things online to try to bring people together around programming. So to answer your question specifically, when it comes to the television, to me it'll come in one of two ways. Either a direct connection into the television itself, where the actual internet line is being connected in, and we will build an application layer over the top of the broadcast itself through the CE manufacturer, directly with a Vizio, a Panasonic, a Sony, a Samsung, whomever. That's one way. The other way is through a third party, like a Google Chromecast or an Apple TV or a Roku or an Amazon device, should one be developed at some point. And we will work with those third parties and develop an application layer that will integrate into their box and or a cable or satellite provider's box as well. So in the United States, those cable and satellite boxes are very rudimentary. They do not have the computing power that we need to actually pull off a true IPTV interactive television experience, and I think it's a huge opportunity for companies like Cisco that are creating those boxes.
Bruno.
I see it in a slightly different way, in fact. Let's not speak about the present experience because things are changing, but if I can give you my point of view, I would say two different things. First, the connection of the TV set, whether it's a direct connection or a connection through a box or whatever you can imagine, is a way to allow a non-broadcast experience to be present on the TV set. And I'm absolutely certain that this non-broadcast experience on the TV set will develop at a huge velocity. So we have to be present there. We have to develop special products for this non-broadcast experience, whether it's on-demand TV, whether it's verticals, we are developing 5 verticals, whether it's services, whatever you can imagine. We have to develop this non-broadcast experience into the TV set through whatever you can imagine, through every tool. The second screen, though it's not very satisfactory on the moment, for me, the second screen is a way to have two experiences at the same time. One is a collective experience that you can have in front of the TV set, but then the second screen is an individual screen. So how do you make interact a personalized and individual screen that is an individual experience with a collective experience. How you can have people sharing the same collective experience in front of the TV set, but having at the same time different individual experience on the second screen. And I also believe that, though I agree that for the time being second screen experience are not very satisfactory, I strongly believe that at the end of the day, you will have to have this kind of two possibilities. I'm sharing a moment with people in the same room in front of the TV set, but I also have my own personal experience on the second screen, whether it's conversational, whether it's a story about storytelling, or whether it's about sharing.
Just gentlemen, just there if I may.
I'd love to chat after a panel if you have a moment.
Good morning, I'm Carmelo Zacconi from the Belgian web community. So as of today, we consume media and videos and series on mobile devices. On the France Télévisions booth, we've seen, as of this LeWeb, some window glasses which are used as screens. So can we imagine in the future where it's not the content which is the media moving, but in fact, as of we move, the content will move from screen to screen. So following us into the house during the breakfast, I'm in the bathroom, then, and the movie is going on. And I see my movie, my quick series in that way.
What? Bruno, that sounds like a dystopian vision, followed into the bathroom by a TV show.
Well, in a way, people use their tablets to do that. I mean, we know that. We have some data that show that we are competing into the bathroom with newspapers, and that the tablet is allowing TV to compete with newspapers within the bathroom. But if I can try to answer you, nobody knows the future, but it is true that our content has to be, in a way, liquid, that can be moved around every screen. But we have to provide that. I'm sure we have to provide that. But on the other hand, I still believe that context is so closely connected with content that this kind of experience will develop itself in a way for news or for special events, but might not be majority into the way we behave.
Yeah, I think that the future in this sense is not that hard. It's not that hard to see. If you look at television, I'll use the news lens again. It's very frustrating to me that I watch television and I can't save a segment to my phone. You know, if I see a great interview in a news broadcast, I should be able to, from the television, send it to my mobile device or save it to a playlist. You know, on Netflix, I watch a movie, I pause it on the web, and I pick it up on my Netflix app, and it starts where I left it when I was watching it on my television when I paused it. Or on Apple TV, it'll ask me, do I want to resume the movie that I was watching, right? So it's connecting in the cloud. So that capability is coming, and it's coming very quickly. And so you can imagine, you know, for me, that we'll take the news and take it down to the atomic level, by segment, by subject, by personality. And as we do that and we organize it into a database, we should be able to know who you are and present these news pieces to you, you know, in a very personalized way, and allow you to create a playlist of subjects and news and material that you like across devices. So I would imagine that that'll be coming, you know, hopefully in the near future.
These kind of things where we are experimenting or doing that, but for the time being, it doesn't come from the TV set. That is the problem. So second screen also are useful for that, because today, if you want to record a small segment of a program from France Télévisions and send it through Facebook or whatever wherever you want to send it, you have to use it through a second screen. You still cannot do that from the main screen.
Just look over to this side. Question just over there. If we can get a microphone.
Hi, I'm Sebastian from Paris. I have a question with the advertising. What is the new opportunity that you can offer to your advertiser with the second screen and the social TV?
It's an interesting question specifically for you, Bruno, because I think advertising has just been ruled out, isn't it?
That is true, because France Télévisions was limited in its way to develop its broadcast advertising, but we are not limited to do that on the digital world. You know, we were talking about mass media becoming precision media. I prefer precision media rather than personalized media. So it's an opportunity for advertising. That is true. What we are trying to do with Twitter Amplify, for example, that we are experimenting for the time being on 3 or 4 shows for France Télévisions, is a way to find new ways of advertising, new markets is for sure, but new ways of advertising using the engagement, because just until now we were selling targets, advertising targets, so we were selling, you know, a mix of power and affinity. And now we are trying to figure out how to sell engagement, because engagement into a show gives you an idea that people could engage into the advertising program too. So yes, it's a strong opportunity. I believe that the opportunity is higher into this kind of new advertising rather than on. Of course, we do that, but for you know, the classical advertising on video, whether it's a.
I was just going to say to KC, you know, one of the issues around news and advertising has always been the conflict between the content and the advertising itself. I mean, I just was watching online coverage of the memorial service for Nelson Mandela, and it was fronted by 2 deeply annoying and obviously out of context adverts, not on CNN, I hasten to add. I mean, how do you get that balance between people wanting to advertise and the content that they're putting their advertising into? Because you know, there is a clash in some respects between the 2 messages.
I think there can be a clash, but honestly, I think that notion is fairly old-fashioned. You know, our journalistic and editorial ranks are very protected from the commercial interference, and CNN is a global brand, and the internet has made the world much smaller, and all brands that I know of that advertise on CNN want to move around the world with us. So to answer your question specifically, these new formats like native advertising, integrated sponsorships, sponsored-based and placed content, I think, to me, users understand that getting information out to the world doesn't come for free. It's either supported through government and taxation and fees, or subscriptions or license fees that I'm paying to a satellite provider, or it's supported by advertising. And I think if the advertising is done in a tasteful and respectful way, if it's clearly marked that it's advertising or sponsor-driven content, by and large, for me, I'm just hoping that the advertising is relevant to me. And when it is, I'm much more likely to click through on that. And so we will see when that matches up right, that our engagement with the advertising can be very high and can be very beneficial for people.
I mean, spinning it around, my point was kind of really that advertisers talk about wanting to engage with the content, and yet the mismatch between content and advertising still seems incredible. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a lot of real serious work going on in terms of adapting to these different formats. Is that your experience?
I think it can be clumsy at times, but I think it's getting so much better. I mean, it's just the pace of change that's coming through in the digital landscape. It's for people like Bruno and I, it's incredibly challenging just to keep our content operations up with that, let alone the advertising, which is done through third parties and exchanges and agencies and what have you. So, you know, truing that up, I think, is a challenge, but honestly, I think the friction is reducing every day.
Let me just look over in this corner, which I was neglecting. Any hands that I've missed, especially if you're seated further back? Gentleman there.
Hello, Rodrigo from Brazil. We have one of the largest group in communication in Brazil that's global.
Yeah.
And we suffer because of that. The community, the society, they always throw information to us, and that's what we talked about, because the information was that. Nowadays, people are getting informed, especially in the work, because they don't have really access when they are on the suburban part of the internet, but they're getting informed. And we've seen two things. First of all, those big groups are trying to getting the internet lower to us. The second thing, before was like general content. They throw it there, and right now people are getting informed and they're looking for some specific content. How are you guys changing the way you're programming because of that? That's my first question.
That's going to be the only one we're going to have time for, because we're running into the end of the session. So
Okay.
can I just very briefly hear from both Bruno and KC on how you're changing your content to meet the needs?
So I'll just go very quickly. In 2006, we launched something called iReport, which is it's our citizen journalism platform. And I think it was a revolution at the time that we launched it, and now it's a core part of our programming. So what that does is it democratizes the news. Not all news is coming from a producer or somebody who's at CNN. It can come from anybody in the world, and anybody in the world can post into iReport, and then we go through and we vet through that, and we pick out those pieces that go up onto air and onto the web. And it has well over 1 million contributors to it today, so it's been fairly popular.
So it would take hours to answer that question, but just to give you two examples. First, we did that in news too. We launched France TV Info 2 years ago, and France TV Info was a mix, of course, of news coming from the journalist and news coming from the audience. And we will change a whole channel called France 4 within the first month of 2014, opening the gates to what the audience can do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to thank both Bruno and KC for sharing their thoughts this morning, and we'll be leaving you in the capable hands of our hosts. So thank you very much.